Hello everybody, Larry Young here again with another segment of OLaMan Living Life with Purity. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about accountability and what happens when people don't do their jobs. We had situations going on up in Minneapolis with the protesters out there. 2 of them were shot and killed last month for reasons that had extenuating circumstances. Had these people been picked up and arrested for their earlier actions, they'd probably both be alive today. But because the police up there were told to stand down and not to enforce laws, people who were doing the offending got more bold, and they kept pushing things further and further and further. Says, oh, you're not going to arrest me for that? Well, what about this? And then they don't get arrested for that. So they get emboldened. They say, screw it, you're not going to do anything, so I'm going to keep going. And so they did. Until so much as they caught some bullets and died. And this isn't a good outcome. This is not the outcome that was planned. This was a failure of the system. This is a failure of the people in authority and who were to be accountable that did not do their jobs. And so somebody else was hurt because of that. So this is why we have police. This is why we have rules. This is why we have policies. And this is why we have somebody in charge to make sure these things happen. And when that person who's in charge doesn't do their job, people get hurt. So it's not just in protests where people get hurt. It happens in our government. It happens in our institutions. And it's happening in our church. And I want to talk a little bit about something happened yesterday. There's been a troubling situation at the University of Notre Dame in South Bend. And this isn't new to them because they keep pushing the envelope, as I just talked about, because they aren't enforced, they're not disciplined because of some other bad behavior, so they just keep pushing the envelope. And so bad things end up happening. And some bad things happened here the last few months. And this was in the form of the Liu Institute at Notre Dame, the LIU Institute. It's an undergrad program trying to teach Chinese values and Chinese culture and Chinese everything, that how China is so great and the United States is so damaged. And the woman that they put in charge of this, the university decided on a Susan Osterman. And Susan Osterman is an avowed pro-abortionist, and she pushes for abortion, women's rights. And so to have Susan Osterman, this pro-abortionist out there, running this sort of communist-theoried undergrad school on a Catholic campus was causing a lot of problems. And this is not something you would expect at a major Catholic university, or a Catholic university, even if it wasn't a major. You would just not expect these things to go along. But the hubris of the authorities at Notre Dame decided they don't care. They are too, they are too wise about things than the rest of us. And they are too, woke to not be bothered with their advancement of their progressive schemes. This is going on at a major Catholic university. And so Bishop Kevin Rhodes did speak out against her, but not very forcefully. He says, oh, it's an abomination, we got to pray and all like this. Well, Rhodes doesn't really have any authority over the university. He is in charge of them trying to maintain a Catholic decorum at the university. But I would submit that he does a fairly minor job at that then too. And why do I say that? Well, if we go back to 2024, there's another university there next to Notre Dame called St. Mary's University. And St. Mary's is a women's school. And in 2024, these enlightened people at St. Mary's University decided that they were going to start admitting trans men. Otherwise, men who said that they were women And so that's what I'm talking about. Trans men, trans women, pick whatever you want. It's a lie. And so they were going to start admitting trans students to the university and have them stay with the women in their dorms. Now, our Bishop Kevin Rhodes said something at that time like, well, this is bad. This is not good. No, should not do that. That's all he did. And then he basically left it fester. The parents got involved, the donors. They said, no way. They said, no effing way. Stop it. If you do that, we're done. Our relationship with you and our bank accounts is over. So with that, the parents and the benefactors spoke up, more so than the local bishop did. And they took things under control, and they got things back in control. And the university now has doubled back on their policy, and they're not going to be allowing trans individuals into the university as part of the regular student body. Now, why did they do that? If they were supposed to be a Catholic institution in good standing with the local bishop, why would they even think to do something like that? How would that even come across their plan of action? They felt that the local bishop was too weak to do anything about it. What's he going to do anyway? Let's just do it. And so they did, and he pushed back a little bit, but what happened was it was the donors, the parents, the dads, the man brain who stood up and said, no, not with my little girl there, no way. And so that's what changed it. And so the ladies at the university thought that they were more powerful than what they were, and they kind of got beaten back down with that. Well, that only lasted about 1 year, because in the next year, at the 2025 commencement, these same intellectuals at St. Mary's University brought in the ex-president of Ireland and to come in and give the commencement address. They thought, here's an empowered woman, bringing her in. And so she came in to do the commencement speech, but who was she? Well, she's another avowed abortionist. And she was a huge proponent of abortion, of being the only method of women being able to maintain control over themselves and their careers and their lives, is to have this power of abortion. So against a bit of outcry from some of the parents and a little bit by the bishop, they brought her in and she gave the commencement speech, basically fingering their nose at the bishop. And bishop really didn't do anything except, oh, it's a shame, it's a shame, it's a shame. Well, she still came in and did it because they didn't feel there was going to be any blowback. And there really wasn't. There might be a few dialogues at little discussions at tailgates and things like that to the football season. But beyond that, no one wants to talk about these dirty little secrets that are going on. And so what ended up happening is this continual pushing of the envelope. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? He can't stop us. We're too smart. We're the intelligent ones. We're the ones with the higher moral authority in the room. This is what they say to themselves. And in the meantime, then, they keep pushing the envelope because they feel that the bishop is not going to push back. And in a lot of ways, there's a reason that the bishop doesn't push back. And there's about 200 of them. And the reason being is the Diocese of Fort Wayne South Bend is worth projections of $120 to $130 million. If you were to take everything and liquidate it down, all the businesses and the buildings and things like that, if you were to liquidate all of that and their own personal holdings, the rankings show that it would be in between $120 and $130 million. That's just for the Diocese of Fort Wayne South Bend. A pretty good-sized diocese, and it's a pretty good chunk of change. But when you compare it to the University of Notre Dame is 200 times larger. It is valued at over $25 billion as compared to the Diocese of Fort Wayne South Bend. So the University of Notre Dame is 200 times more wealthy, and they assume to be more powerful than the Diocese of Fort Wayne South Bend in which they sit. And so the local bishop is reticent to try to chastise and hold these guys accountable when they're 200 times bigger than he is as far as their ability to bring down the thunder from the skies, if you will. This causes a problem. This is just like NFL football teams or Major League Baseball teams with their managers. And up until the mid-1970s, most managers or head coaches had control over their players in the locker room. What they said was the law of the land, or at least the locker room, and in that organization. But what happened since the mid-70s is that salaries skyrocketed, took off, went through the sky. Right now, you've got some of these athletes out there are making $2 million a week while they're in season. $2 million a week. And they are being managed by guys who aren't even making that the entire year. So how does somebody who's making so much less than you manage you? Very difficult situation. And that's why we see the decay going on in Major League Baseball and NFL football, sports teams, basketball especially. Oh my gosh, these guys are completely off the chain. The coaches can't control the high-priced players because the high-priced players say, I can buy you 100 times over. And they're right. And that's the same thing that's going on with these people at Notre Dame. How they say, you don't affect me, I can own you in an instant. This has to change. We need to reset the dial on this and get the discipline back in. We need the dad brain to come back into the argument. So, in the meantime, I love you, and I'll be back.